Morning student. So we are continuing with the function chapter from unit 4 programming C++. So in today's video we'll be discussing about two programs, that is two topics. So in this program we will look at a C++ program to demonstrate the method of calling multiple functions and returning to a function. So in the previous videos I have discussed some programs where you saw that there was only one calling function and one function body and one call function to be executed, right? So so with this program you will see that you can have multiple calling functions and you can have multiple call functions also. So the main function can have many calling functions and many call functions. That means here, if you see this particular program, this is the opening and closing braces. That is, this is one function body, or you can say this is one module, okay, and this is another function body or another module, and this is another function body. So this is the main function. So you can see that this program is split up into three small programs. This is one program, this is another program, and this is another program. So this program is independent and this program is independent. So when the main function calls this program, it will execute only this part of the program, and it will execute only this part of the program. Okay, so you can see that it's split up into three programs. So the main program and then the two sub programs, right? So the main function has to interact with both these programs, or both these modules. Okay, so to demonstrate the method of calling multiple functions and returning to a function, so here the program starts execution from the main function. So the compiler will execute what is within these opening braces and closing braces. So here in the main function you can see that the cout statement, a prompt, call both the functions from main. So the main function is responsible for calling these two programs, clear, this program and this program. So the calling function has to be written in the main function. So this signifies the calling function. So right after this cout statement, okay, once the program gets run, it will first call this function. That is, this is the first calling function, that is first underscore function. So that is denoted by this parenthesis and ended by a semicolon. So the first function, it will be called here, clear. So the compiler will temporarily leave the main memory, okay, and then it will call this function, okay, and then it will execute this function body. So this is the calling function. So what will happen is that the compiler, once it goes out of the main function, it will search for the function name. This is a user defined function name, right? So it will search for the same function name, okay, which it finds here, right? So you can see first underscore function. So here you can see that the return type of this function is void. That means this function does not return any value back to the calling function, clear. And you can see that this function does not accept any arguments, or does not pass any arguments, or it does not accept any declare any parameters here, right? So so here it's also written here void, clear. So this is optional, okay. You may or you may not write down, okay, but always a good programming practice to write this down, okay. So if you just write here void first function and within this parenthesis nothing also, it is okay. But like I said, always a good programming practice, clear. So once this calling function, okay, searches for this function, that is the call function, this is the first function definition. So it is also called as the function definition. It does not end with a semicolon because it has a function body to execute, right? So as you can see that no variables are defined in this function body. Only a cout statement is run here, right? So in this function body, only a cout statement, so it will display this message: first function body is executed. So no return value, because no variables are declared, no formula is executed here, right? And then return. So what does it return? It does not return, but this return statement, what it does is it returns the control back to the main function. So it comes back to the calling function, clear. then after the semicolon it moves on to the next line statement. Again the second function will be called here, that is the call function. Clear? So this is the calling function again. So you can see that in the main function there are two calling functions, the first function and the second function. So you can see that you don't need to do anything, because automatically after this function, this calling function calls this function and executes this function body. Once the cout statement gets displayed and the compiler comes to the next line statement, that is return, automatically it will come back to the calling function. And then once the semicolon is reached, okay, this program line statement terminates and automatically the second function will be called by itself. Clear? So that is how a calling function works out. So the second function will call this function body. So this is the call function, the function second function definition. Clear? And you can see that it is similar. So here also no variables are defined. Okay, no variables are declared, not assigned any value, except that a cout statement gets run. So second function body is executed and then no return value. Right? Again the control returns back to the main function. So semicolon, the line statement gets terminated and then return 0. So control is returned back to the operating system upon successful termination of this program. Clear? So you can see that by this program you can see that, okay, you can have as many calling functions as you want in the main function, and then you can have as many call functions also. So this call function, okay, the purpose of this call function is because it is written outside of the main function, because like it has its own function body to execute. Suppose like you have the calculator program. Suppose like this is the addition function calling function, subtraction calling function, and let's say multiplication calling function, division calling function. So let's say you have four functions, calling functions for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, right? So similarly like that, four call functions will be there. That means four function bodies. Suppose this is the addition call function, right? So when you want to do addition, this call functions will be called, and then it will be invoked, and then it will execute the addition part of the program. So it will do addition only. Then after that, if you want to do subtraction, okay, subtraction will be called, right? And then it will do the subtraction formula, and then it will return a value back, like that. So you using this as many calling functions and call functions, okay, you can make a complex program, okay, much easier by reducing the complexity, okay, by splitting the programs into multiple sub programs. Clear? So when you have these multiple sub programs, okay, each individually will execute on its own. Clear? Otherwise, if suppose all of the formulas, okay, for addition, subtraction, multiplication, division are written inside the main function, okay, you may want to do addition, but it is not possible, because addition will be done, subtraction will be done, multiplication will be done, division will also be done, because it is written inside the main function, right? So all the four formulas program logic will get executed. But if you want to do separately or call only one or two, okay, depending upon how you write down the source code here, okay, it will call these function bodies, these call functions. Clear? So go through this program nicely, try to understand the concept of this. Clear? Now function type void. Clear? So we have seen in the earlier previous program also. Okay, so void is used in function as a user defined function. Okay, so it is used as a user defined function which does not return any value, but it can accept any number of parameters or variables. Okay, so so it can accept any number of parameters, that is like here, okay, here within this. So this is the user defined function. Okay, the return type is void. That means this function does not return any value to the calling function. So but it can accept any number of parameters. So that means within this parenthesis, okay, you can declare as many parameters as you want. In the previous video where we calculate the average, right, you saw that to calculate the average of three input values, we declare three parameters, that is int num1, int num2, int num3, like that, right? So as many parameters can be accepted by this function, and you can pass the arguments, okay, that is stored in those parameters or variables, okay, from the calling function to the call function. Clear? So the presence of void keyword in a function is optional. Clear? So but using it improves the readability of the program. So like I've said here, within the parameters, since there's no parameter here, right? So if you want to write here void, it's or if you don't want to write here void, it's up to you. Okay, but or in here also, if you don't want to write void, it's up to you. But writing down, okay, improves the readability of the program. That is always a good programming practice, to write down the keyword void. Clear? So in this example, you can see that based on the first sum of two numbers program that we have seen, right? So here void sum num, as you can see, this function does not return any value, nor does it accept any parameters or uh, any arguments. So that's why the return type is void. So here only this message, no value returned by the function sum num. So this function does not return any value to the calling function. Clear? So in the main function, only the calling function is written. So when the compiler comes across this line statement, it automatically goes out of the main function temporarily and goes in search, and then invokes this, okay, call function to execute this function body. And then after that, okay, it returns the value 0, which means successful termination of the program. Okay, so in today's program, okay, you try to understand very nicely, because we'll be using this void keyword, okay, a lot in the other, not only in this function chapter but in other chapters also. Clear? So you have to understand what is the meaning of void, okay, and how you use it in functions, and the meaning of parameters and arguments. Okay, so like in this case, if it does not return any value, you can see that only a cout statement is written. Or you may declare variables here, you may execute the formula here, but if the output is displayed in the function body, that means, clear, and not in the main function, that means the return type will be void. But if suppose the return type here is int, that means this function body is returning something to the calling function. So in the calling function, there should be a variable declared which should accept the value that is stored, that is sent back to the calling function. Like we have seen that in the average function program, okay, and in the Celsius to Fahrenheit program also, where we return a value back to the calling function using the return statement. That means when the call function return a value back to the calling function, that is to the main. Yeah. So understand this program nicely, go through both the programs nicely, okay, and try to understand the concept of multiple calling functions and multiple call functions, and then the return type void. Okay, so if you have any doubts on these programs, okay, you can ask me.